I'm so incredibly delighted to see all of you who have gathered with us for this conversation, and I want to open by echoing Sarah's thanks to all who have supported us. One of the most fulfilling parts and privileges of this career is being surrounded by creative minds engaged in thinking, discussion, and those who are committed to a lifetime of continual learning and growth. A sense of this spirit, the idea of artworks that were themselves exercises in looking and thinking, is what first drew me to the art of Edna Andrade. Over the years that we have spent thumbing through her archives and studio files, and of talking with the many members of the Philadelphia arts community who were her students, who knew her through the city's arts institutions, and who admired the way her presence and practice gave them an anchor in its arts community, I've come to admire that Edna's greatest legacy may have been the way that she brought that energy of learning into all her relationships. The QR code on the screen is also on the opening panel of the exhibition text, and from it you can link to excerpts of Andrade's oral history with the Archives of American Art, video clips of the artist at work in her studio, and the voices of the artists and museum professionals, or a few, who were shaped by their encounters with her, and who, as a group, span generations. Tonight's program is not about Edna Andrade, but we developed it guided by her spirit. From her earliest days, Edna pictured herself as an artist. She was fiercely committed to her artistic practice, to building a career as an independent artist, and to lifelong learning through conversation, community, and thinking across both cultural and disciplinary ways of learning. Before we begin this conversation, I want to offer a very brief introduction, thus, to the artist whose work has inspired this gathering. Born Edna Wright in 1917 in Portsmouth, Virginia, to a middle-class family who encouraged her interest in the arts, in 1934, she would enroll at the University of Pennsylvania to pursue a formal education in the arts. There, she also completed her postgraduate studies at the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts in 1938. Her education was about drawing from observation, a traditional academic training, creating convincingly faithful renderings of life models, as we see in this student drawing or student exercise on the left. And it's this interest, this practice of looking closely and drawing from observation, is a skill that she would continue into her middle age and beyond. From there, after graduating, she began her first position as an educator, moving to New Orleans, where she would teach visual arts at Newcomb College, the women's coordinate of Tulane University. Shortly after her arrival, the department would welcome a new chair, Robin Field, who arrived from his studies at Harvard's Graduate School of Design and would transform the curriculum by introducing the lessons of the Bauhaus Foundations course. From there on out, Andrade would think of art as well as her pedagogy as a process of inquiry, and we see on the left a student exercise from one of Robin Field's Foundation's classes at Newcomb College that he later donated to the Busch-Reisinger Museum and is part of the Harvard Art Museum collections. And on the right, one of Edna Andrade's studies in color and form, inspired by one of her great Bauhaus influences, Josef Albers. In 1941, when she returned to Philadelphia, where she would remain for the remainder of her career and life, she would apply her study of geometric compositions to designs for works for public and commercial arts commissions. And by the late 1950s, indeed, she had returned to the classroom and would remain an educator for the next 4+ decades, influencing generations of artists in the Philadelphia arts communities. An influential intellectual community that informed her work in these years was the group Form Forum. You see a flyer of theirs on the far right. This interdisciplinary salon convened artists, architects, scientists, and engineers to share their scholarship, believing firmly that they would learn, that their studies in these various fields would inform one another. Modeled after the Harvard-MIT philomorphs, this group, the Form Forum, also hosted guests from Cambridge, and we, in fact, have a flyer of for the guest lecture when Arthur Loeb was the guest lecturer. Another bridge between Edna and Harvard, though she never was herself a scholar here, was her close friendship with Anne Ting. Ting was one of the first female graduates of Harvard's Graduate School of Design and a part of the Philadelphia's Form Forum. Ting's study of space frame structures would become fundamental to her architectural practice, and we see it here across the ceiling expanse of Yale University's art gallery. A structure that would give new inspiration to how Edna approached the drawing of deep space or illusionistic space within her line drawings, and that would inform how she would place these geometries into built space in her public commissions. And here we see a marble mosaic piece at the Philadelphia Free Library that uses that same structural form. Whether the facets of a crystal or the branching patterns of a tree, Edna's compositions, the foundation of Edna's compositions was always, however, a study of the natural world. Geometry was, for Edna, a mathematics of describing systems in nature, and from her student days forward, she would love to travel, and as she traveled, find different geometries in cultural contexts distant from her own. One of my very favorite drawings in the show is this precise architectural sketch of an observatory she discovered in Jantar-Mantar in an influential trip she took in 1984 to India. The structure itself is a form of geometry. It is a geometric form, and as we see it in Andrade's sketches, it bisects the landscape, creating new vantage points and new ways of seeing. In her own practice, these were only jumping off points, and she would take them and interpret them to create these new compositions or new ways of thinking through geometry. In the end, Edna was most recognized for her paintings, and there are two in the exhibition upstairs. However, it's in her drawings that we see her mind at work. The exhibition itself takes its title from a quote from her teaching notes. In these teaching notes, she herself speaks about the importance of imagination as a faculty, as she says, for structuring life and organizing relationships and making mental images, but as a faculty that itself is never static. It has been an honor to learn through the act of looking at Edna Andrade's practice, and my learning has been deepened profoundly through the opportunity of conversation. And for that and much more that has brought us here, I'm indebted to the exhibition's co-curator, Madeline Murphy-Turner, who will introduce tonight's speakers.